Okay, I have to announce somebody, but I don't know who's next. Somebody give me a slide. It's Cathy, sorry. Cathy from Rentrak is going to talk to us about a lot of insights they've been, there she is. Come on up, Cathy. Everybody welcome Cathy. Do you need this?
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Thanks all for being here, and it was a great party last night. We had a lot of fun, and it's great to be here today. I was here, not the last one, but the one before last, and I was so excited to be invited back with this talented group of people. I feel like, for me, I come at this world from the TV side of the business, and I learned so much because most or many of you come to thinking about things from the digital side. And as much was talked about today already, the fact that we have it all coming together now and using the new term video, which isn't a new term, but for thinking about everything as video versus TV and digital, is a really interesting way of moving forward. Okay, I see the fire in the front, and I see a slide in the back, so are we moving? We're not moving. Oh, we're moving. Great. First, today I'll just give you a brief interview of Rentrak and our approach to the business and of audience measurement. And also, I want to talk about some ideas about how we use measurement in targeting. And then a few trends that we see, and talking about finding those audiences on every platform. TV everywhere, as we talk about it today, is really where we're headed. And lastly, and most importantly, I get to do the part where I come out and get some feedback from you and some insights from you. So please feel free to challenge anything that I have to say, or even any of our speakers before me, and let's get the dialogue going today, because we really want to know what you're thinking. Rentrak really is all about measuring precisely movies and TV everywhere. I love seeing Chris's screen about the cinema, because that's half of our business, really. And it's been interesting. We have 100% market share worldwide of all theatrical grosses. So anytime you go to the movie, they scan your ticket. Rentrak receives all of that information from something like 38 or 45 countries now, where we're aggregating that information and then providing it back to the studios so that they can really understand the performance, starting early in the morning in Australia and moving all the way across as it reaches the US. They've already made some changes in some of their spend and based on the reaction of audiences. And we can generally predict pretty much on a Friday night what the movie will do its opening weekend, and then what it'll do the entire run in the theatrical run of the movie. And then the TV part, which is the part that we're going to focus on today, we really started in on-demand television, where we had the opportunity to get server-based information at a census level. And we started in on-demand about 8 years ago, and it's interesting that to watch the growth of on-demand from those very early days when Comcast was our first client. And we had the opportunity to really see every single transaction on TV. And by starting with video on demand, it gave us experience with being able to aggregate these large amounts of information. And then imagine going from on demand and then moving into TV and set-top box information, where you literally have every second of information about viewing, including the ads that are placed as well as the content. The next phase for us is really about taking what we have then on linear TV, DVR viewing, video on demand viewing, and then moving that and getting more and more information. We're happy to announce that we have our first multi-channel video partner who is now providing us with data across every platform. That was also our first client on the TV side, which is AT&T, and I think Chris is here someplace, so a shout out to him and for AT&T for being straightforward and saying This is important, and so we want to be able to not only have that information internally so that we can sell audiences on every platform, but through our partners, they're giving us the opportunity to be able to combine that with other data sets and over time provide really TV everywhere audience verification and measurement, which of course was discussed earlier today as being one of the things that we really have to get to as an industry in order to really understand and target our audiences effectively, no matter where people are watching. What we say is TV, and I think I'm going to have to call my boss after this and say, we've got to change our tagline to video instead of TV. Excuse me? Okay. Perfect. We talk a lot about fragmentation, and when we started in this business, our thought was, yeah, geez, you know, a panel of 30,000 homes is just not going to be able to really measure 500 networks. And that's really what our thinking was when we started with collecting set-top box information and then started aggregating sources on cable, satellite, and telco, and then projecting to the entire footprint of the US. The idea behind that really was, geez, we've got to get to those, what we were calling long-tail networks. We have to be able to provide somebody like a TV Land with the ability to be able to sell their information. And even in the 30,000, at the local stations and diary markets, many times there were often just a hash mark for Dr. Phil or even Oprah at the time. And the TV stations were saying, geez, my market is small, but nobody in my market is watching this. It's just unlikely that that was the case. But fragmentation today means a whole other thing. We've brought it to a whole other level, as they say. And so when you think about fragmentation, it's not only the 500 networks, but it's all of various devices that are being watched. And that could be inside the home or outside of the home. I use the picture of the home because right in this very home, we have, you know, dad in the living room watching sports or something on TV, and then mom's upstairs watching a very different show on a different device, and the kids are also in their different rooms, and they're watching something very differently. The household, the makeup of the household, they buy the same types of cereal every week, or they might try some new brands, et cetera, and might have an opportunity if they're an adventurous family to try some different things. You see two different types of cars in their driveway. And so the opportunity to be able to take the information at this household level and define what types of products that are in their cabinets and also the types of cars that they drive is the opportunity that I want to talk with you about today. And big data is really the way to get to that opportunity. Now, I always like to say, and people talk about data being the new oil and the refinery, and how do you make sense out of the refinery and turn it into something meaningful. For me, I like to keep it simple, and I just say that data is the new black. So that's what Rentrak is all about. Every one of our products we come to at a census base. We're there, most certainly in video on demand. We have 100% market share of television video on demand. We also have over 30 million television sets, and we're aggregating another 8 million as we speak television sets into our data set, and then we project for those homes that we do not have. So we have full footprint measurement at a census level, census-based level on TV as well. On online, as I said, today we get a lot of data from various network groups who have all of their data sent from the various providers, say Hulu or Amazon, any of the others. And they have it sent, Netflix, have it sent to us, and then we aggregate that information and present it back to the network. And with the addition of AT&T multi-platform, and as other operators provide us with AT&T or with the same type of data, we'll be able to stitch that together and provide the same census-based approach on every single platform. And then it's really about having the household match done independently by a third party. It's done in a blind match, and therefore what we get is a unique identifier associated with the household, the products that they buy, the cars that they drive, the political persuasion of that where they voted, what type of voting that they did in the past. And also many other categories like retail, where we use various databases such as MasterCard to match that information and then provide a true target. Here are just some of the databases that we're matched to. And the way that this works with our operator partners who participate is that they send the names and addresses to a third party, so Experian, Axiom, Epsilon, any of those. And then we have that information matched to a key. And then we receive just back that unique identifier along with the characteristics of that household. So we never have any names and addresses. That's important, especially in today's world of concerns about privacy, that we are really looking at the information in a way that's very targeted. It tells details about the household. It gives you a very wide range of both age, sex, and gender and ethnicity type demographics. But in addition to that, more about the products that people consume and an index against those products, an actual rating against those products. So take a local station as an example where they may walk in and generally in a local market, some of the smaller markets, they do what we call a cattle car. And all of the dealer will have all of the various local stations in. They say, come on in, show me what you've got, show me your ratings information. I got my Nielsen book right here. I know what, you get 25%, you get 20% of my buy, you get 15% of my buy, you might get 30% of my buy. And what we've really seen in the local market with these changes is that instead of that occurring, the local TV station knows where their strengths lie. So they know in that car situation that they should be getting 60% of the buy for Ford pickup trucks, where they'll really go pitch hard for that business and not as hard maybe for the Mercedes dealer because their audience isn't the same on Mercedes. So if they get their 15% on Mercedes, they're pretty happy with that. So we don't see the dollars going away in the local markets. What we see happening is that they're shifting around and that various stations get their viewers and the viewers that their stations target the best, and they have the opportunity to be able to really get high dollar value for that inventory. And as you can see, political has been a really big category for us. Auto, it's not just the auto registration information, it's also lease expirations, et cetera. So we can really closely target in on cars. Cars have been the biggest seller in the local station market. Cars and political probably are the two categories where I would say right now we have the best business opportunities. And then, of course, with the addition of IRI and dunnhumby on the product side, we're beginning to get into CPG in a bigger way as well. We see this world that we're living in now in two general areas that really will allow the clients as well as the agencies to be able to help their clients really target effectively. We have the opportunity with set-top box reporting, we like to say start with the target and end with the target. So if you start right away with the matched information and you look at historical that allows you to really understand the ratings against a specific target, and you start with that target and go after those people in that target, then you have the opportunity to even go beyond that with custom segmentation. So we have done several campaigns with specific clients who have their own databases, and those are proprietary databases, they're information that they have, or an agency might have a lot of information about the target of their customers. We can match those databases in a privacy compliant way, and sometimes Rentrak doesn't even know what the segment consists of. We might get segment A through G or 1 through 20, and we're able to match that information against viewership and provide an index back with sometimes not even knowing the secret sauce that goes into it. Addressable, we think, offers a whole other opportunity. We're seeing much more on the addressable on video on demand, or DAI, dynamic ad insertion on VOD. We think this is the year that that begins to take off. And then, of course, for our clients like Cablevision, Dish and DirecTV, and others, we're working with them on addressability on linear television and providing them with that granular measurement that allows them, again, to start with the target and then end with the target. And targeting isn't always the best way to buy media, as we all know. If you really are going after 50% of all TV viewers, then you probably really ought to just buy broad and buy big and buy prime time. But if you really have something that you want to maximize the opportunity to really hone in on the consumers that are most likely to buy the particular product that you're selling, then you start to get on down these charts where you start to combine with general segments, and some of those might be epsilon, where you identify the characteristics of your customer, or specific products, like we mentioned in dunnhumby, or matched again with IRI. And then in addition to that, you can go all the way where your target is really clearly defined, or you have a really great list. And that's where you can start to get into some of the proprietary targeting and have the opportunity to really hone in on that audience based on your own secret sauce with your agency or at the client level as well. We think political is a good example, and Obama for America was really one of the first to really effectively use the type of targeting that we're talking about here today. In Obama for America, they did work with Rentrak, and they worked with several other data-driven agencies as well. And the interesting thing that they did is, if you look at the makeup of the Obama campaign workers, it was more than 50% were statisticians and scientists and data analytics type people, which is something that we just haven't seen before in prior political campaigns. And what they did is they were one of the ones who had proprietary lists. We did match with Catalyst, but they created a voter score, and we really provided for them a measurement of a voter CPM based on the targets that they provided to us. And again, we didn't have any visibility into what were the characteristics of those specific models that they had built themselves, but rather we were able to tell them that you have the opportunity to be able to spread your advertising differently than you have in the past. In a typical political campaign, generally they'll buy about 18 networks deep, but Obama bought almost 100 networks. And they feel that by doing that, they were able to find the viewers in other places. And I think Chris said it really well earlier today, where you have this light TV viewer that you're not necessarily going to catch on the primetime evening news. Where else can you find those viewers? And we were able to help them find them. And according to Obama, they feel that they were 15% more effective in their ad campaign by being able to do it this way. What's really interesting is they didn't spend 60% less money or 15% less money. What they did was they actually added $60 million in media spend. And I think that's one of the fallacies, that when we think about more targeted, we think that agencies and advertisers are going to spend less. No, they plan to spend more efficiently and find the opportunity to get more buyers for their products. We think that product placement becomes increasingly important in a fragmented world. And recently, Rentrak acquired a company, ITVX. We have Steph Kelly over here, so if anybody wants information about ITVX, she's in the audience. What ITVX was able to do is they really understood where in a specific program that product placement was being used. And we used this example of Dunkin' Donuts, where they were really creative and did the Dunkin' Bowl in one of the Monday Night Football games, which is really cool. It was a great idea. And then we went in and called on Dunkin' and said, hey, how did it do for you? What do you think? Well, don't you think it was really cool? Yeah, it was really cool. It was really good, but what benefit did you get out of it? And they were unable to tell us that, because before, no one was actually measuring. So now, with the addition of ITVX and then married with the Rentrak information on second-by-second information, it can look at product placement just like they look at their regular advertising, and they can really assign a value to it. And I think for both the buyer and the seller, as product placement becomes more and more prevalent, we have a great opportunity to be able to monetize it in a different way than it's been able to be monetized before. And of course, we need to talk about programmatic buying because there's a lot of it going on, and I think there's a lot of confusion around it. And that's one of the things I want to talk about as I walk around the audience in just a couple of minutes. From our perspective, we see the first step in programmatic buying really about automation, and I think Dave Morgan said it really well, is that one of the steps to, one of the impediments to making sure that a lot happens and that we're able to use all of this big data that we have effectively is for us to be able to really make it part of the systems that are in use by both the agencies and the advertisers. Rentrak believes strongly in being part of the workflow, and one of the things that we're doing to try to make sure that we are part of, make it easier for clients and agencies to use us, is we're being integrated this year with MediaOcean. That's important just so that you have the opportunity in the buyer's desk to be able to look at something other than age, sex demos. And then in addition to that, we're already integrated with Strata and some of the other programmatic buying systems that are out there today use a feed from Rentrak with these different types of demographics that allow you to more targeted and more precise buying to occur. And I do want to save this topic because I'm curious about what a lot of you think about where programmatic buying will really go on TV, and if it'll be the same as on the internet. And then lastly, it's really all about finding audiences, and I think that theme has been resonating. We've had the third speaker, and in every single case, that's something that we've talked about, is that while the viewing of video is still a very powerful medium, we have a really great opportunity to be able to maximize and monetize wherever people are watching, and to find those light viewers in different places that you may not have been able to find them before. But in our belief, by linking that with segmentation that's not about age and sex, but more about the products that we purchase, the cars that we drive, our political persuasion, and our ability to be persuaded in a different direction, we have the opportunity to make even more powerful decisions about the advertising that we present to our to consumers. And as we pull all of these things together, regardless of the screen, and I think there are probably screens that we haven't even thought of yet that are still around the corner, the idea of setting the stage to be able to look at measurement from our perspective on every single one of these platforms side by side and determine what percentage of the audience saw it on TV. How do I get non-duplicated reach on the other platforms to make sure that I'm not getting people just a bunch of different places? I might want to do that sometimes, but for the most part, I want to find different audiences that behave in the same manner. And what we're doing is pulling that together in a Multiscreen Essentials product so that our clients have the opportunity to really understand where the viewership is happening. And from the first step, you know, our chief research officer always says, don't let perfect be the enemy of the good, because it isn't a single source audience where we look at a single household and look at it across every platform, but instead we look for people in the market to buy a new BMW. Where are those people? Where do you find them? What are they watching? What are they doing on their mobile phone? What are they doing on their tablet? What are they doing online? What are they doing on computers? And how do I find each of those segments of people in a way that I can tie it all together and make the most effective advertising campaign possible? And now comes the fun part. So I thought what would be interesting, and it was especially interesting because of the fact that Dave comes to the industry from the internet side of the business, and I think a lot of you do too. And for me, I started on the TV side of the business and then kind of trying to figure out how to take what we're doing in TV and move it to the digital side. So which is it? Which way do we really want to see things flow is digital measurement perfect? And if we can figure out how to do that same thing on TV, we've got the home run? Or should we be thinking about the measurement that we are working with on TV and how do we make it more like digital? I'm going to call on you because I know you're going to talk, Chris. Start the conversation. What do you think? How do you think about it?
I'm sorry, I missed most of what you said, Kathy. Could you repeat that? No.
It was really important.
All right, so you're saying, I would say that as being somebody who came from the TV world and is now has my feet firmly planted in many different worlds, most of them on Earth, that I think that there are, in general, there are principles from digital that are impacting the way that we look at traditional media, without question. I mean, the idea that companies like Dave's exist are about applying digital principles to a traditional medium. So, and I would also say, no, digital measurement is not perfect. I don't think anybody's measurement is perfect. There isn't anything I've ever seen that's perfect, right? But also I think that there are ways that the traditional world and principles from the traditional world that can impact digital in a way that would be positive as well. So I think the idea of identifying audiences who are likely customers and applying that to a very granular data set to identify traditional media environments that make sense, or even just buying audiences across thousands of partners, that is a digital principle that can enhance the use of traditional media. On the traditional side versus digital, I would say that there should, my observation is that the digital medium and the digital world is a very metrics-based culture, and one that relies very heavily on making sure that metrics are part of every single transaction and that there's constant regular reporting about those metrics. And I think I would like to see a little bit more of what I described as the environment side of the pie, which is, and I'm not saying this doesn't happen in digital, clearly it does, but I am observing less of it on the digital side. People building out content-based, deep strategic partnerships. There seems to be a very significant focus on delivering purely on action-based metrics. So I don't know what your question was, but that's what I have to say.
Does anyone disagree? I mean, we have a lot of people that are here from the digital side of the business, and you know that. Is it about impressions? Do we just care about impressions, or is CPM dead? Or should we look at taking CPMs and applying them to impressions? Any ideas? What metrics are important to you as clients? This is what I feared. I'd walk out here and no one would say anything.
I do disagree with Chris. I think it depends on the client. You'll have certain... Yeah, so I have to be really careful. I think it depends on the client. You have certain clients that are going to be very goal-oriented. So I think when he talks about clients, you have clients that are completely cost per product oriented. It will always be totally tied towards goals. And then you have clients that are content oriented, want to create very big idea-driven, because you can't always tie it back towards ROI. You'll have CPG clients. So I think you have two different spectrums of types of clients.
Yeah. So where's Chris Montefiore? There you are. AT&T is doing some really interesting things with targeting and presenting to clients a different way of thinking about audiences. Will you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So Chris Montefiore, I'm with AT&T AdWorks. Yeah, we're doing a lot in the targeting space. I think, so I'll start out and be a little controversial and just say that, TV right now is the most powerful medium that there is out there. So I come from a TV background. That doesn't mean I have certainly great respect for the digital side of the business. We're in the digital side of the business. But I think what we're doing is we're trying to take principles of the digital side, apply them to the TV side to make it even more powerful. And we're doing that in a way by using data, we're using our science, and we're using technology in a similar fashion to what Dave was talking about before. The key is having a really powerful data set, having the algorithms, having the back end to be able to put it all together and then provide transparency to the clients at the end of the day. So, you know, it's really identifying what those needs are and really fulfilling those needs. And we've been able to prove it time and time again on multiple campaigns. We can take multiple attributes, we can apply them to census level set-top box data on a household level, and then ultimately do an A/B comparison against a typical schedule, and we're showing increases 30%, 40%, 50% higher in reaching that audience. And I think you know, we're up against a lot of challenges. One of the challenges is the currency. The currency is just age gender, right? I mean, that's what it's been for 50 years or so. And getting the mindset of clients and agencies to put that new line item in and say, well, how do we dig deeper and how do we hit those target audiences is challenging, but it's starting to happen. We've had a lot of success.
And I would say we have to make it easier. We have to make it easier for that buyer that's sitting in front of a screen and trying to make a buy, and all that's in front of them is an age, sex, demographic on the top 100 networks. That's why we're working so hard to do two things. One is be MRC accredited, but two, we've got to get inside the agency systems and the agency workflow. That's really important. Barry, did you have something to say about that? It's coming behind you.
Thanks, Josh. Hi. You know, these are some of the great issues of our times, how much digital, how much the way it's traditionally been done. And I think it matches very well with another great issue of our related time here. Good to see you. How you doing? Is man versus machine, algorithms versus humans. And you know, we've got a lot of smart people like Chris been in the television business for a long time, and he's now also adopting, in addition to his kind of understanding the business, you know, how to use the machines, how to use the algorithms. And it's going to be a continual dialogue, which I think we all need to face all the time. The way I extol to my industry, the digital place-based advertising group, is I tell them to look at their inventory in different segments. There's a high-touch, high-feel segment, which may be sponsorships, long-term, environment, high human involvement on the buy and sell side, creativity, conceptual. And then there's a kind of a middle section where we do group buys. We put that all together. We make it a little bit easier, and it's a little less input from humans and a little bit more from systems and automation. And then we go to the next level, which is closer in, more remnant type buy, more automation, more programmatic. So we encourage all of our sellers to go in that fashion, that they basically maximize their inventory and also to maximize the humans as well as the machines.
Let's talk about programmatic buying or machine buying a little bit more. I know that there are several companies here that are engaged in doing some of that. Is somebody maybe from Videology or Collective or Place Media? Okay. There you are.
Yeah, I mean, my name's Mike Swosey, Videology. I think that the biggest kind of misconception surrounding programmatic overall is the idea that it has to be entirely machine-based, right? It's really about trying to automate things and make them easier. And some of those inputs and outputs might be machine-based, but a lot of it has to do with the interaction.
That it's my challenge to make it relevant to her. I would not take this level of headiness to her or anyone else because there's 100 other things that she has to think about besides media and data and targeting. And so, I am here because I love all this stuff, but I'm also here because I'm trying to make sense of who are the real players here and who are just sort of, number two, number three, trying to be number one. And I think, my advice to the just community out there is, dumb it down, for lack of a better term.
No, I understand what you're
and
saying.
it's not because we're dumb, because we are there's so many things going on that the level of detail that you have about your data and what goes on behind the curtain, while it may be really important to you, gets lost on a lot of the rest of us. And we want to work with it, and we want to sell it, and we want to have it build our clients' businesses. But we kind of need help for you guys to make it simple and why it would actually matter to our clients' business. And that's
great.
where I'm just on a constant mission for that. So,
Thank you.
So, going back to my weird initial statement to Chris,
She's trying to save her job.
when I say that, our tactics are different for different clients. My first job was working as a planner on Beiersdorf, so what we do is different for each client. We couldn't do these things for Beiersdorf because our objectives were different. We did large branding campaigns. We had to tie it back to ROI. We did random, metrics, click-through rate, impressions. But we do these things at Initiative for our clients. So it's not as heady for us because we are tying everything back towards Rentrak. We do talk about video and everything that we do. So it's interesting because this all ties back and makes sense. So it's interesting, and maybe it's because I'm from IPG and I'm from Initiative that it isn't as heady. So I just wanted to make that statement. And it's weird talking on a microphone, and I'm getting nervous.
Oh, you're doing an awesome job.
But I understand your perspective, having worked on your brand, but working at Initiative, we do all of this, and we do work with Rentrak, so it all makes complete sense. We do talk in video every day, so this all ties back.
Yeah, so I would just say let's consider this a great time of disruption and change and the opportunity to try some things that maybe you haven't tried before. And you don't necessarily have to make the decision to roll it out on a large scale for every single client. Your relationship with your client is always the most important thing. And you start there, and you'll have some clients that are interested in trying to understand it better, and there's no way to understand it better than to take one client and try it. And see if you're able to improve the performance. If you're not going to do it again, right? Or certainly not for that client, probably. But I think what you will find is that there will be portions of what a lot of these companies are bringing to the table that you're going to get a lot of benefit for your clients. And certainly the charts that Chris showed in the very beginning of the changing landscape, we have to make sure that we're trying some different things because the audiences are viewing in different places. So we want to find those audiences wherever they might be. And I appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you, and I also appreciate those of you who jumped in and participated. It makes a big difference. Thank you.
That, it's my challenge to make it relevant to her. I would not take this level of headiness to her or anyone else because there's 100 other things that she has to think about besides media and data and targeting. And so, I am here because I love all this stuff, but I'm also here because I'm trying to make sense of who are the real players here and who are just sort of, number two, number three, trying to be number one. And I think, my advice to the just community out there is, dumb it down, for lack of a better term.
No, I understand what you're
And it's not because we're dumb, because there's so many things going on that the level of detail that you have about your data and what goes on behind the curtain, while it may be really important to you, gets lost on a lot of the rest of us. And we want to work with it, and we want to sell it, and we want to have it build our clients' businesses. But we kind of need help for you guys to make it simple and why it would actually matter to our clients' business.
I think
And
that's
that's
great.
where I'm just on a constant mission for that. So
Thank you.
So, going back to my weird initial statement to Chris,
She's trying to save her job.
when I say that, our tactics are different for different clients. My first job was working as a planner on Beiersdorf, so what we do is different for each client. We couldn't do these things for Beiersdorf because our objectives were different. We did large branding campaigns. We had to tie it back to ROI. We did random, metrics, click-through rate, impressions. But we do these things at Initiative for our clients. So it's not as heady for us because we are tying everything back towards Rentrak. We do talk about video and everything that we do. So it's interesting because this all ties back and makes sense. So it's interesting, and maybe it's because I'm from IPG and I'm from Initiative that it isn't as heady. So I just wanted to make that statement. And it's weird talking on a microphone, and I'm getting nervous.
Oh, you're doing an awesome job.
But I understand your perspective, having worked on your brand, but working at Initiative, we do all of this, and we do work with Rentrak, so it all makes complete sense. We do talk in video every day, so this all ties back.
Yeah, so I would just say let's consider this a great time of disruption and change and the opportunity to try some things that maybe you haven't tried before. And you don't necessarily have to make the decision to roll it out on a large scale for every single client. Your relationship with your client is always the most important thing. And you start there, and you'll have some clients that are interested in trying to understand it better, and there's no way to understand it better than to take one client and try it. And see if you're able to improve the performance. If you're not going to do it again, right? Or certainly not for that client, probably. But I think what you will find is that there will be portions of what a lot of these companies are bringing to the table that you're going to get a lot of benefit for your clients. And certainly the charts that Chris showed in the very beginning of the changing landscape, we have to make sure that we're trying some different things because the audiences are viewing in different places. So we want to find those audiences wherever they might be. And I appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you, and I also appreciate those of you who jumped in and participated. It makes a big difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Cathy. Oh, yes, we're going to need that for the next guys. Yeah. So I took away two things from that session. I took away number one, and this is something that I think a lot of us do know, but it doesn't always happen, is I think I would change the term dumb it down to simplify, right? We have to simplify our conversation with clients, and we have to connect it to what we know they're thinking about. If you do not connect it to what they are thinking about, it's all gobbledygook. The second thing I think I learned is that Cathy and Simul Media have clearly thrown their hat in with the Obama camp, and I'm going to guess, so I don't know if we have any Koch brother folks out here, but anyway. Okay, speaking of Koch brothers, I don't know why I said that.